Welcome in. Welcome in. Week 5 is upon us. We are moving throughout the season here. First month is in the books, and we are into October, which is really, this is where you really kind of start to make your money for the season, I feel, right? If you can be in a good spot after the month of October, I think you should be feeling pretty good for your outlook of the season. So we have a small main slate to dissect this week. Only 10 games on the slate for us. We have two Monday night games, I think, next week. We also have obviously the Thursday night game, and then bye week. Maybe there's not two Monday night games. Don't quote me on that. But we obviously have primetime games on Thursday and Monday. Bye weeks are here. There's a London game, Sunday night game. So only 10 games on the main slate this week. A little bit of a condensed player pool for us. In terms of a recap of week 4, it was more of the same for me in week 4. I think I profited $4 on the main slate, or not, yeah, overall, $4 overall last week. Main slate cash lineup again. I made a really smart decision and then a really dumb decision. So I was kind of like up in the air of where I wanted to go with my main team on Sunday morning. I knew that I always know kind of what the chalk build is going to be. And I just don't normally want to play the same lineup that 1,000 people are playing. It's just not fun. So I try to have a little bit of, differentiation there in my lineup. Ended up playing Breece Hall, which was stupid. Terrible decision. But because I played Breece Hall, I had Trey Tucker, which I thought Trey Tucker was a great cash play. He was owned, but not crazy owned, and he did great. So, playing Trey Tucker allowed me to spend up, and I spent up on Breece Hall, which got me nothing, basically. But I made a swap because I was behind the field because of Breece Hall's terrible performance, and we almost salvaged cash. But like I said, I pretty much broke even. My tournament teams did pretty good. I didn't have any in the mix for a takedown, but they cashed pretty nice. And I have been just dominating these short slates, the early slate and the main in the late slate. Once again, last week, late slate lineup was absolutely cooking. And I didn't even have Jaden Daniels on it. I had a full game stack of that Arizona-Washington game, but I had Kyler Murray. But that game went crazy. And then I had Travis Kelce, who did really, really well after Rice got hurt. And I had somebody else. Jordan Mason, who did good as well. So once again, I've been money on these smaller slates. I just really would like to get back on track with the main slate cash lineup this week. And then the betting, once again, this is a DFS show, but I am well ahead for the season thanks to the bets. If you want access to my betting cards every single week, betkarma.com/pricing for that. DFSkarma.com/pricing if you want the DFS cores for the main slate, late slate, early slate, showdown slates, every slate you could think of. I will be posting those for subscribers. But shout out to the bets, man. Up over 21 units for the season. So for a $100 unit better, that's $2,100. Like, I am firmly ahead for the season thanks to the sports books. With that being said, 10 game slate. Let's dive in and let's build a first look lineup. Starting off at quarterback here at the top, Josh Allen against Houston, which is a pretty good game. Actually, before I do that, let's just pull up the Vegas odds here and talk about the totals of some of these games. So starting off on the main slate, we have Bengals Ravens with a 50.5 total, which is pretty good. Interesting to see that for a divisional matchup as well. 50.5, pretty high total there. We have Bills Texans with 47.5, Jaguars Colts with 46.5. So 3 nice totals there in the early window. And then heading to the afternoon slate, there's 2 nice totals. Cardinals, Niners, 49.5, Packers, Rams, 48. So more games with actual totals this week than we've had the past couple weeks, I feel like, which is nice. So even though it's only a 10-game slate, half of the slate has actually viable Vegas totals. So, that's good. But starting at the top here at quarterback, Josh Allen, 7,700. Lamar Jackson, 7,500. CJ Stroud, 72. All those guys are in high totaled games. If I were to spend up on one of them, it would be Josh Allen, I think. I just feel the safest about him. The Ravens have been so run heavy this year. It's really tough for me to spend up for Lamar outside of like a GPP format where you're just betting on ceiling outcome. So I don't really want to take him in cash. CJ Stroud just doesn't have the rushing equity that Josh Allen does, so I would not play him over Allen in cash. So if you're spending all the way up this week, it would be Josh Allen for me. But then we get down into the 6K tier. This is where the ownership's going to come in, I think, for cash game formats. You obviously have Jaden Daniels at 6,800, who has completely taken the league by storm. He's posted over 25 DraftKings points in 3 of his first 4 career starts. The trendy stat of the week is that the Commanders have manufactured more scoring drives, field goal or touchdown, than Jaden Daniels has incompletions. They've scored on 23 drives this year. Jaden Daniels has 19 incompletions. So, yeah, I mean, he's been fantastic. He absolutely smashed again last week. Got there with a rushing touchdown. He has a rushing touchdown in 3 of those 4 games as well. So every game that he's gone over 25 DraftKings points on, he has a rushing touchdown. And he's going to continue to have high-value carries in the red zone. So that's definitely baked in here to the price. But, in all honesty, Jaden Daniels should be above 7K on DraftKings. So, we have Jaden Daniels here at 6,800. You have Kyler Murray there at 67. But, man, you're seeing a little bit of the systemic risk here. I'm not going to be quick to overreact because that's the name of the game that we're in, right? Everybody wants to overreact to every single thing that happens. And, I saw people talking on Twitter like, oh, Kyler Murray, is he a startable fan? Like, dude, it's one. Yes, it was against the worst defense, but it's one game. He's had one game below 15 fantasy points. Like, let's just pump the brakes a little bit. He's going to be okay. He's always had success against San Francisco fantasy-wise, especially running the ball in his career. So we'll see what happens there. But I obviously would play Jaden Daniels over him in cash games this week. But let's just relax a little bit on the worry about Kyler Murray. One bad game. Let's kind of see where it goes from here. Jordan Love at 6,500. Man, he looked amazing last week. So obviously, what we saw from Jordan Love a year ago during the second half of the season, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in football. Led them to the playoffs, won a playoff game, and, got himself paid a pretty nice contract there. He comes out in week 1, and, that was a weird game because it was in Brazil. The field was weird. I mean, he had 17 DraftKings points, which isn't terrible, but the whole game was kind of weird just with how the field was set up. Obviously, he gets hurt on the last play of that game. And then we don't see him for a while. Now he comes out last week, and I mean, he went like 2008 Super John Cena mode, like coming back from that injury so fast. Like it was probably like, I mean, we were talking about them signing Ryan Tannehill. Like we didn't know if he was going to play, for 6, 7, 8 weeks. He only missed a couple games, and he's back. And man, the first quarter of that game, he looked rusty, and then he turned it on. 34 DraftKings points. He led them to a huge comeback against a really good defense in Minnesota, got him back in the game. Now he gets the Rams, who coming into last season were number 1 in the NFL in net gained yards per pass attempt. They did okay against Caleb Williams, but that's a rookie. Like different situation, in my opinion, going up against Caleb Williams versus going up against Jordan Love. So yeah, I really like Jordan Love here at 6,500 as well. I mean, that's one of the better totaled games. Packers have a pretty tasty team total here, almost 26 points, which is only really below, the Ravens and the Niners. Like they have one of the higher team totals on the board here. So Jordan Love at 6,500, I'm interested. Definitely. Joe Burrow, I'm interested in, but that would be tournament only, I think. I would lean Daniels and Love over Burrow for cash, I think. But yeah, I think that's how I would play that. And then we have Brock Purdy and Geno Smith down here in this range. Brock Purdy is solid. I mean, we've played him a number of times in DFS last season. Really good matchup here against Arizona, who just seemingly gets crushed by absolutely every quarterback they face. Like, really good spot here for Brock Purdy at home. He's historically been a good home road splits guy as well. So, yeah, I'm interested in 6,200 Brock Purdy. Geno Smith, tournament only, I think. Trevor Lawrence, tournament only. Really good spot for him against the Colts there. And then you got like these cheap guys. Would not play him in cash games, but Deshaun Watson will be on my tournament board once again against Washington, the worst defense you could face. But overall, for cash games for me, I think you're looking at Jaden Daniels or Jordan Love. I'm going to put Jaden Daniels in the first look lineup. Interesting stylistic matchup here for Jaden Daniels. So the Browns are one of the few teams in the NFL that play a man-heavy defensive scheme. It's really like the Browns and the Jags are the two teams that are playing man coverage at a really high rate. Theoretically, that should be good for Jaden Daniels because we always like running quarterbacks against man coverage because the DBs turn their backs and the quarterbacks can take off and run. So Browns defense has been underwhelming compared to what we saw from them last year. Should be a good spot for him to get loose with his legs. And just overall, like, the Browns defense hasn't been great. So I'm going to put Jaden Daniels in the first look lineup. Moving on to running back here. We have Derrick Henry at the top. Jonathan Taylor, we're not sure if he's going to play. If he were to miss, Trey Sermon is going to come into the mix here. I think there's a good chance. I don't even mention this. I think there's a good chance we don't have Anthony Richardson or Jonathan Taylor in this game for the Colts. Joe Flacco's 5,500, so you could certainly put him in the tournament range. I mean, he's 5,500 against a defense that's been absolutely carved up. So, yeah, I will just mention that. But good chance we don't have Richardson or Jonathan Taylor here. Obviously, that would kind of bump up Trey Sermon, who scored a touchdown last week or the week before. Can't remember. He does have a touchdown this year, but he would definitely be the starter for this Colts team. Checking where his price, he's 5,700. So, yeah, I mean, if Jonathan Taylor gets ruled out, we'll probably be playing $5,700 Trey Sermon in cash games. So I won't put that in the first look lineup just because we don't know. But, this is not, as you guys know, this is not my final lineup. If you want the final lineup, dfskarma.com/pricing. But this is just first look. So if Taylor is out, we will be playing Sermon. I'm not going to put Sermon in the first look just because we don't know. Kyren Williams cannot stop scoring touchdowns here. Once again, scored a touchdown. He's scored a touchdown every single game. He has not been very efficient, but it doesn't matter if you're efficient when you just score 1 or 2 touchdowns every single week. So I don't know how much longer he can keep getting away with this. I'm going to continue to not play him in cash games because I just can't bet on these like touchdown or bust guys, but yeah, I mean, he's really good. It's not like he's not good. Jordan Mason for me is going to go in the lineup once again. I mean, the guy just has one of the best roles. Once again, last week, 24 rush attempts in a game they were winning, 123 yards and a touchdown. He also had a receiving touchdown called back due to just a stupid hold, like didn't even affect the play from George Kittle. So, yeah, I mean, he easily could have had another touchdown on this 27-point game. Arizona, like I said, just seemingly gets crushed by every team they play. Brian Robinson and Jeremy McNichols absolutely shredded them last week. Apologies if my voice is a little not up to game, but allergy season, you guys know how that goes. But we're putting Jordan Mason in the first look lineup at $7,400. Home game against the Cardinals, big favorites. It's obvious. Moving on down farther, it pays me what's happened to my boy Devon Achane. It's not even his fault. The offense is just non-existent with Tua down. They can't move the ball. They couldn't move the ball with Skylar Thompson, so everyone just keyed on the run game. They can't move the ball with Tyler Huntley, so they just key on the run game. It's not Devon Achane's fault, but it's unfortunate. Like, Tua needs to come back as early as possible for Devon Achane to continue to have, a high-value fantasy role. He did get stuffed at the goal line twice last week. So, this 5.9 would have at least been, 11 points. But it's just so unfortunate what's happened to our boy. Kenneth Walker looked fantastic in his return to the Seahawks lineup last week. 3 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. You know, he looked good. Even if you take out 2 of these touchdowns, he looked great. I mean, 12 for 80 and a touchdown would be super respectable. I think that the Seahawks are going to be winning this game. I think that he's going to continue to have a really, really high value role just for the remainder of the season. We know he's a home run hitter. He can hit big plays at any moment. So I think after you get past Mason, Kenneth Walker becomes the most interesting to me here at 6,800. Yeah. Moving on down, Chuba Hubbard will probably be chalky once again. He was chalk last week. He delivered. He's coming off a 31 and then a 25 DraftKings point game. Huge, huge, huge matchup downgrade here, though. Cincinnati is a team I want to target running backs against every single week. Cincinnati's arguably the worst run defense in football right now. I know Indy gets a lot of credit for that, but man, if you look at last season, once DJ Reader went out for the Bengals, you have been to run all over them. And that has been the case again this season. Ramondre Stevenson carved them up in week 1. Chuba Hubbard carved them up. Brian Robinson had a good game against them, and Jane Daniels, obviously, on that Monday night game. And yeah, it's like that sets up really well. I didn't mention him at the top here for cash, but for tournaments, oh man, I want Derrick Henry this week. Like, you can just shred Cincy on the ground. So I want Derrick Henry this week in tournaments, but matchup differential here, Chicago, much tougher defense, but Chuba's had a really good role, since Andy Dalton came in and actually is running a functional NFL offense. So I could definitely see him getting high ownership here again at 6,100. I like Ramondre Stevenson this week at 6K. I know the game logs don't look great. He had 24 in week 1 against Cincy, 17 in week 2 against Seattle. Hasn't done anything the last 2 weeks, but that's because they've scored 3 and 13 points and they've been losing the entire game in both matchups. This is a different situation this week against Miami team that we know has really, really struggled to move the ball. They are home fit, like New England. It's a 1-point spread, but they are favored in this game. So it should be a much more neutral game script for Ramondre Stevenson. He's only 6K. I think he's right there with Chuba for a cash game play at 6K, to be quite honest with you. Moving down, really the only cheap person I would consider, like I said, is Sermon if Jonathan Taylor misses. So I'm gonna put Ramondre in the first look lineup, but we can easily just move him down to Sermon if Jonathan Taylor misses the game. But I'm gonna put Ramondre in at 6K. I think it's a good play. And we'll just fast forward. But the Patriots defense is 2,900 at home against Miami, so you can just stack that with Ramondre Stevenson. So we'll just put that in as well. Skipped ahead to defense. All right, receiver, Jamar Chase at the top. Nico Collins, man. Woo! This guy just continues to ascend. I mean, he's on a 2,000-yard receiving yard pace. Man, if you redrafted season-long leagues, he would easily be a top 5 pick. He'd probably be a top 3 pick, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. Man, he looks good. Don't know what's going to happen with Tank Dell this week, but I think he's in play regardless at 7,700. If I was spending up on anyone this week, it would be on Nico Collins. Like, I would play him over Chase and Tyreek and Marv in cash formats. So, yeah, Nico right there at 7,700 for sure. Malik Neighbors, 7,300. I think he's going to be fine with the concussion, so no worries there. He continues to get fed, man. I mean, look at these targets, 7, 18, 12, 15. He's topped 25 DraftKings points in 3 of his 4 games. Looks really, really good. Tough matchup here against Seattle. Seattle's much worse against the run than they are the pass. Like, they're really, really good in coverage. They have really athletic corners, but I don't know. I mean, I trust Malik Neighbors to get open against anyone. So that's like a conversation I'll have to think about. He's in cash play for me for sure. I just don't know if I want to, play him. But he's certainly in the mix. DK Metcalf looks amazing this year. Like, way better than I imagined. Like, looks so, so good. So he's certainly in play here. against the Giants. Steph Diggs revenge game against the Bills, 6,900. We have to mention, if there's one thing about this show, we're going to mention the revenge games. Is there a bigger revenge game in 2024 NFL DFS than Steph Diggs against the Buffalo Bills? Like, I mean, he's had three really good games this year, 3 out of 4. Pretty high volume role here, 9 targets and 12 in his last 2. Obviously, Tank Dell was out last week, but yeah, Steph Diggs is in play for me for sure. DJ Moore revenge game as well against the Carolina Panthers. DJ Moore has been one of the unluckiest players in fantasy football. If you look at, I think it's fantasypoints.com that does the expected fantasy points stat. He's one of the biggest differentials in expected fantasy points and actual fantasy points per game. Now he gets a soft matchup here at home against his former team. Yeah, I'm interested in DJ Moore. I bet him to score a touchdown last week. He did score a touchdown, so that cash, shout out to DJ Moore for that. But yeah, I'm interested again this week. What we really need to talk about is this Packers situation because Christian Watson is not going to play in this game. So kind of what we have here is Jaden Reed, who you guys know, if you watch this channel or follow my content, there was pretty much nobody in this space talking about Jaden Reed before I was. You can go timestamp my tweets. Last summer, I was just beating the drum for Jaden Reed. This guy looks like young Stephon Diggs. He is very good at football. And now we're taking a weapon out of this offense. And it's a fantastic matchup. So yeah, I'm super interested in Jaden Reed here. He's had 30 plus in the two games this year that Jordan Love has played. Jaden Reed has put up 30 DraftKings points in both games. So yeah, I'm interested in Jaden Reed. And I'm also interested in Dontavian Wicks, all the way down here at 5K. He has been targeted on over 30% of his routes run this season. Trendy stat this week, but when you take Christian Watson out the last year and this year, it's over 25% target share there for Wicks. Scored 2 touchdowns last week. I'm going to put Dontavian Wicks in the first look cash lineup at 5K. But man, I'm really interested in Jaden Reed here at 6,500. Like, so excited. We also have Deontay Johnson here. So if I'm going to choose one Carolina Panther this week, I would play Deontay over Chuba Hubbard, I think. I mean, we know that Deontay is one of the best receivers in football. He finally has competent quarterback play. You know, we're not asking for him to be paired up with Mahomes here. We just need competent quarterback play, which is what he's been getting. 14 and 13 targets the last 2 weeks. Scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks. Deontay Johnson, 6,100, will go in the first look lineup. Someone else I'm really interested in here. I like T. Higgins at 6K again. He was getting fed in the first half last week and then did literally nothing. I don't think he caught a pass in the second half. Not sure what was up with that. They did move Horn onto him a lot for some reason. So I don't know. I like T. Higgins at 6K. He's had some monster games against the Ravens in his career. He had a 190-yard game and 2 touchdown game against them a couple years ago. He also has like an 8 for 140 in a touchdown game against them. Like, he's had some big games against the Ravens. So yeah, I'm interested in T. Higgins. But man, I am really, really excited for Brian Thomas Jr. this week. He has been everything we could imagine in terms of separation, yards per route run. He has been elite in metrically this year. Now he gets the best possible matchup in a game where we should see ceiling level play volume from the Jags offense. Man, I love Brian Thomas this week. 5,900. I'm putting him in the first look lineup. I also like JSN in that range down there against the Giants. But if it were cash games, I think I'd lean BTJ over him. But yeah, I like JSN again this week. Moving down for cheap plays. I think the one cheap play I like again this week, Jordan Whittington looked good last week. Wouldn't play him in cash, but for tournaments, yeah, he finally did something last week. Saw that step up and roll. We were just a week ahead on that, unfortunately. But I like Trey Tucker again. I do not think Devontae Adams is going to play in this game. He's had 22 and 15 DraftKings points in his last 2 games. They get him the ball creative ways, right? He scored a rushing touchdown last week. He has some jet sweep equity. He also can kind of operate as like a short, like intermediate high volume role for Gardner Minshew. I do not think that he will be matched up with Pat Surtain in this game also. So yeah, Trey Tucker at 4,100. Like I played him in cash last week. I definitely think you can play him again this week. So if you want to play, like if you want to go up from BTJ and play Trey Tucker, right? Like that would give you a little bit more salary. I think that's fine. I'm going to leave Brian Thomas Jr. in the first look lineup, but yeah, I think Trey Tucker is certainly in play. For tight end, I mean, what a just disaster. Just absolute disaster for the tight end position this week. Trey McBride should be back, which definitely helps Kyler Murray out, but I don't really want to spend $6K on a tight end in cash games. George Kittle, fine for tournaments. Brock Bowers, I'm getting to the point where he's fine for tournaments as well. Like, can this guy just score a touchdown already? What is the holdup here? And we did see, like, he got a rush attempt last week. I think that Brock Bowers is live to get 1 or 2 rush attempts a game because the Raiders offense is just hurting for weapons with Devontae Adams down. So yeah, for what that's worth, all these 5K guys I think are fine tournament plays, but I really don't want to spend to that range in cash. Mark Andrews is 4K, but I'm not playing him. I don't care. This guy is not healthy, I think. I think that's the explanation. I don't think he's healthy. He doesn't run routes. So I'm not playing. Why would I play someone that doesn't run routes just because his name's Mark Andrews? I think that's stupid. So yeah, I'm not playing him. I think it's Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Tucker Kraft for cash games. I think that's kind of the range you're looking at. I'm going to put Kraft in. And that gives you 6,400 for a flex, which is a nice little range here. There's some definitely Oh, I did not mention Amari Cooper at receiver, so I'll go back to that now. I would put him behind Deontay. I would put him versus BTJ is close, I think. Amari Cooper's in that DJ Moore field of really, really underwhelming in terms of their expected fantasy points versus actual. Now he gets the nut matchup against Washington. He scored an 80-yard touchdown last week that got called back on just a bad call, like a holding call. I don't know. He also had like a 60-yard pass bounce off his chest that he should have caught. So yeah, Amari Cooper is cash viable for me. He could fit in with this lineup. Or, like I said, you could play a Trey Tucker and get up to someone high price. You can do whatever you want. But the first look lineup, if you're watching or if you're listening, not watching, we have Jaden Daniels, Jordan Mason, Ramondre Stevenson, Dontavian Wicks, Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr. / Amari Cooper, Tucker Kraft, and the Patriots defense. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you made it this far, like the video, please. Over 100 likes on every single video this season. So I want to keep that trend going. Let's get 100 likes. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you know when I post content, and so you know when I go live. I'll be live Sunday morning answering all your last-minute questions. Good luck in week 5, and I'll see everybody next time.